Hey everyone, my name is Chris. This is one in a series of videos in which we're going to walk through the entire construction of a GA4 account from tracking code placement all the way to dashboard construction and creation. The client in this case is Maui Humane Society. In exchange for my services on this account, they've been nice and cool enough to allow me to share these tutorials with you with them as the case study here. So really appreciate their efforts in that respect. Let's jump in. So this one's all about Google Tag Manager. So if you're not familiar with Google Tag Manager, you're in the right place. We're going to walk through what Tag Manager is. To start off, the Maui Humane Society has a tag on the website right now. And they have a Google Analytics 4 tracking tag, which is great. That's going to allow them to track the basics in GA4, including page views and where traffic comes from in terms of sources and geography, where people go from a page perspective. But what we want to do is actually place the Google Tag Manager tracking code. And the reason for that is that Google Tag Manager is going to allow us to do a couple of different things, which I'll explain now. Now, the primary benefit is Google Tag Manager is what you see right here. Typically, when we work in digital marketing, we've got a lot of different software that we rely upon, whether it be analytics or advertising or screen recording and heat map tools like Hotjar, even advertising platforms. Every one of these requires that we place a tracking script, a piece of code, a piece of JavaScript on the website to enable these tools. Now, because every one of these has their own individual script, we can go and grab our GA4 tracking code and our Google Ads tracking code and our Microsoft Ads tracking code or whatever it is, or we can use Google Tag Manager. And essentially, Tag Manager acts as a container. And the container is really just one tracking script. So as opposed to all of these tracking scripts, we place one, and through the Google Tag Manager interface, we can fire these tags, but they all kind of live inside of the Google Tag Manager container. Okay, so that's Google Tag Manager. That's the primary benefit of this tool. So 15 some odd years ago, whenever I needed to place a tracking tag, as a marketing guy, I had to go to a developer and say, hey, please, can you place this tag now? We have Tag Manager, and marketing folks like you and me can pop in a tag in about 5 minutes. The other big differentiator and benefit of utilizing Google Tag Manager when it comes to analytics is that when we have our Google Tag Manager script or the tracking code on our website, it allows us to track extra behavior that we wouldn't be able to track otherwise. Things like clicks on certain buttons or elements on the website, form submissions or interaction with forms for the Maui Humane Society, the donation form. Even things like views of specific content. So if we want to measure the number of views to a blog post or a donation campaign or anything like that that's a little bit different from a typical page view, we can gather all of that and send it along to GA4. So how it works is Google Tag Manager script is on the website, and when any of these behaviors occur, we can essentially have Google Tag Manager look for these things, and when those behaviors occur, Google Tag Manager triggers tags to feed data over to Tag Manager. Okay, so without Tag Manager, if we're just placing our GA4 tracking code on our website like the Maui Humane Society has done right now, we track all of these standard events. Now, as soon as you crack open a new GA4 account, you're going to be tracking these things too. They're pretty much standard. They're default metrics and events. And so we track page views and sessions or new sessions or visits. First visits, so not returning visits, but new or first visits. Engagement metrics, scroll behavior to a degree. We'll talk about that in a subsequent training tutorial video. Clicks to external resources. This is going to be a big one for Maui Humane Society because they link to a lot of different resources where people can find different services, etc. Downloads of files, and then video starts complete, as long as we are embedding YouTube video. Can you track things like Vimeo and Wistia and other video tools that I don't even know about? Yeah, you can. But as a default, GA4 is just going to track YouTube embeds. Okay. Now, with Google Tag Manager, it opens us up to a whole variety of different metrics. Now, these are using the same kind of lowercase underscore nomenclature that we see with standard GA4 events, but these are events that we are actually going to fire for the Maui Humane Society to measure things like donation completes, when people adopt a pet or select a pet to adopt, when people fill out a lost and found form. all the way down the list. We can even track things like navigation elements, so when people interact with the hero on the navigation, the slider, if you will, and even when people open individual accordions on the site. So having Google Tag Manager essentially allows us to turn Google Analytics into, in this case, Maui Humane Society Analytics. We can make very specific events that are unique to us and basically allow us to measure things that we care most about. Okay, so again, we are going to open a new Tag Manager account. They do not have one right now, so we are now going to go to tagmanager.google.com. Let's go there now. There's the Maui Humane Society site right there. Okay, so I'm going to open up tagmanager.google.com. Now I've got a few different accounts in there already. I'm going to create a new account. Again, they don't have one yet. Okay, so we're going to open a brand new account for Maui Humane Society. Yes, they're in the United States. Okay, so we've got our account, and then within an account, you can have one or many containers. The container is just like that box or that bucket into which we can place all kinds of different tags. Okay, so there's our account. There's our, we'll call this the website container. Okay, and you can see that with Tag Manager, we have the ability to track a number of different things. Websites, there's server-side tracking, which is a whole topic we can talk about in a different training video. But if you've got questions there, let me know. iOS apps, Android apps, AMP pages, etc. This one's just a standard website. Okay, so we're going to create this, and it's going to ask us a number of different questions. Actually, it's just going to give us Google's legalese, which they love to do. As long as they're protecting themselves, good for them. Okay, now we've got a new Tag Manager account, and you'll notice that they are giving us some tracking code. Okay, so I'm actually going to take this tracking code and give it to the folks over at Maui Humane Society so they can place it on every single page of the website. That's how this is going to work. Okay, and so when they do so, they will have the ability to track and fire events from Tag Manager that will feed analytics, Google Ads, or whatever other platform that they're firing tags from. Okay, so you'll notice there's two pieces of script. One goes in the head, one goes in the body. I could take these and put them in an email, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this and put it in a text file, and I'm gonna send this text file to the client for placement. The reason I don't want to put this in the body of an email is if you look real close at some of this code, it's a little bit scary. But you can see that some of this code, if you pop it into an email, would probably get screwed up by some of the email macros, especially if you use something like a Outlook or something like that, or even Gmail. Okay, so that's our tracking code. And since we are here, let's just start by building out a sample tag. And this is going to be the most simple tag we can add. I'm going to actually create a tag right here, and the new tag that I'm going to add is just going to be our GA4 web stream. This is our basic fire the Google Analytics tracking script on every page of the website. Call this the web stream. Okay, and how this works is I'm going to grab their web stream ID. We'll talk about that, or you've probably seen this web stream ID in a separate video. But the web stream ID basically says, hey, Google, if you're going to track all this behavior, page views, donation interaction, volunteer behavior, etc., send it to this account. So the tracking code that I'm going to add is Google Analytics, and you can see there's all kinds of different tags in here. But we're just going to use a very simple Google Analytics tracking script and the Google tag. Now, this is the initial tag that you want to fire. Later on, when we start to track some of these other events, like we talked about earlier, we can absolutely use this GA4 event, but for right now, we just need to have the foundational layer, and I can put in my tracking script here. Now, before I do this, I'm going to give you a little tip. What I would do here is actually add a variable. So if you click on this little logo icon, I could just pop my ID right in there, and there she is. But what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to add a new variable, and it's going to be a constant variable. And the reason I want to do this is because I want to, there's constant right there, and later on we'll be doing all kinds of fun with JavaScript and data layer variables. You'll see it's going to be great. And I'm just going to put this constant in here and call this GA4 measurement ID. Now we're setting ourselves up for success. I want to put this in a GA folder while I'm at it, so keep things nice and organized. GA4. Okay. And the reason I'm doing this is because I will want to utilize this constant here when I create all those other event tags to track these things. So later on in subsequent videos, you're going to see how this kind of helps us save a little bit of time. There are going to be dozens of new tags that we are going to be using to track dozens of behaviors on the Maui Humane Society website. So in order to do that, we have to tell for every single tag, we have to use this measurement ID. So as opposed to having to remember that code every single time, I'm just going to create a constant, and now I never have to worry about it again. All right, so we're going to add a parameter here. Now this is a little bit tricky, but in the configuration settings, one of the things we need to do with this tag, because it's a base layer tag, is add a parameter called send page view and set that to true. Okay. Now what this is doing is it's saying, hey, when this tag fires, do you want to send a page view over to Google Analytics at this ID, which I created with a constant variable? And yes, I sure do. True. And because the folks at Maui Humane Society are going to fire this or place this tracking script on every single page, the trigger for this is just going to be all pages. Okay, they don't have any consent plugins right now. That could come into play later on. And if you do utilize a consent plugin or platform rather, the triggers might change depending upon how you're tracking things. But on Maui, they do not need one of these just yet. So that's what they're going to use. And then again, I'm going to pop this into the GA4 folder to keep everything nice and orderly. We're going to save this. This is the most basic setup for Google Tag Manager GTM. And again, all we want to do is make sure that our GA4 web stream, our tracking ID from GA4 fires on every single page. And it will do that as long as this tracking code is placed throughout the website. Okay. I could preview it. Actually, yeah, let's preview it just because we're here. Okay. And so just to make sure it's working properly. You know what? I can't preview it because they haven't placed the code yet. So I take it back. We are going to submit it though. So when they do place it on the website, it will start to fire. Okay. So I'm going to publish this. Again, I'm going to hit the submit button right here. Always give it a descriptive names because you can actually have a historical record of all the changes you make in Google Tag Manager. So this is like GA4 web stream initial publish, and then I'm going to publish it live. Okay. So it's actually not live yet, but when they place this tracking code, like I said, it will be live. Okay. So real quick, let's kind of back it up a little bit. Right now, in an ideal scenario, they will have the GA4 tracking tag, and they'll also have this Google Tag Manager tracking script or tracking code that we just created. Here's the ideal tag status. We're actually going to get rid of this one. And we only want to have the Google Tag Manager because with Google Tag Manager, we can fire everything from the bucket, from the container. We can fire analytics, we can fire Google Ads, we can fire our meta tags, our LinkedIn tags, whatever tags we want from this interface that you just saw, okay? The reason I'm taking away that other GA4 tag is because, if you remember, we just put it in that bucket, so we're good there, okay? So that's what we're going to do from this point forward, okay? Again, in subsequent training tutorial videos that we're going to do, again, thanks to Maui Humane Society, we will be talking about how to identify what we want to track from a custom behavior, some of those clicks and forms and donation activity, et cetera, et cetera. And we will walk through how to create those individual videos. If you found this video helpful and this tutorial helpful or this series helpful, please consider donating to MauiHumaneSociety.org. As you might tell, the need is pretty great right now. And so whatever you can do to help, we appreciate it. Thanks very much.